Most people believe investing automatically creates wealth. They assume that once someone begins buying stocks, saving money, or placing capital into investments, financial freedom eventually becomes inevitable. But reality proves something very different. Millions of people invest for years without building meaningful wealth at all. They contribute money consistently for a period of time, then stop. They panic during uncertainty, chase trends during excitement, and repeat emotional decisions again and again. Because of this, investing alone never becomes enough to truly transform their financial future. The real reason most people never build wealth through investing has almost nothing to do with intelligence. It is not because investing is too complicated. It is not because successful investing requires secret information that only wealthy people understand. And it is not because opportunities no longer exist. The deeper problem is behavior. Most people approach investing emotionally instead of structurally. And emotional behavior eventually destroys long-term progress. Before compounding ever has time to work, at the beginning, investing feels exciting. People imagine rapid growth, financial freedom, and dramatic success stories. Social media, financial news, and internet culture constantly reinforce this fantasy. Everyone wants fast returns. Everyone wants visible proof that they are becoming richer immediately. But investing rarely works that way in reality. Real investing is usually quiet, repetitive, and slow in the beginning. The results often remain invisible for years before becoming meaningful. And this invisible stage is exactly where most people fail completely. Human psychology is naturally attracted to immediate rewards. People want confirmation that their actions are working right now. They want to see rapid increases in their accounts, dramatic gains, and visible progress that validates their decisions. But long-term investing does not usually provide emotional excitement at the beginning. In fact, the early stages often feel boring and insignificant. Small investments produce small visible changes, and because those changes seem unimportant, many people stop before the process has time to develop momentum. This is one of the greatest financial mistakes people make. They underestimate the power of consistency because they only focus on immediate results. A person may invest small amounts for 2 years and see little change. Frustration appears. Doubt appears. Impatience appears. Eventually, they convince themselves that investing doesn't work. But the truth is that wealth through investing is not built through intensity. It is built through duration. The people who continue long enough eventually reach a stage where compounding begins accelerating results in ways that once seemed impossible. Compounding is powerful precisely because it begins slowly. In the early years, growth appears almost invisible. But as time continues, investments begin growing on top of previous growth. Momentum increases, and eventually the process becomes dramatically more powerful than it originally appeared. This is why time matters more than perfection in investing. Yet most people never allow time to work because they constantly interrupt the process emotionally. Fear is another reason most people fail to build wealth through investing. Markets naturally rise and fall. Uncertainty appears repeatedly. Economic fear spreads constantly through headlines and public discussion. During these moments, people stop thinking long-term and begin reacting emotionally. They sell investments during fear, pause contributions during uncertainty, and abandon their strategy completely because temporary discomfort feels unbearable in the moment. But this reaction destroys the very process capable of building wealth. Long-term investing requires emotional stability during temporary instability. The people who continue investing during uncertain periods are often the people who experience the greatest long-term growth later. Yet emotionally, this feels difficult because human beings naturally seek safety during fear. And safety often pushes people into decisions that weaken their future instead of strengthening it. Another major reason people fail financially is lifestyle expansion. As income increases, spending usually increases too. Instead of directing additional income toward investing, people direct it toward larger expenses, better appearances, and temporary comfort. A higher salary creates a bigger lifestyle rather than a stronger future. This keeps people trapped in the same financial position regardless of how much they earn. The problem is not income itself. Many people earn enough money to slowly build wealth over time. The real problem is that investing never becomes the priority. Consumption always comes first. Entertainment comes first. Comfort comes first. Social comparison comes first. And because investing stays secondary, consistency never becomes strong enough for compounding to fully develop. Most people also misunderstand the emotional purpose of investing. They believe investing is only about money. But investing actually changes the way a person thinks about the future. Someone who invests consistently begins developing patience, structure, and long-term thinking. They stop reacting impulsively to every financial desire. They begin evaluating decisions differently. Instead of asking, "What can I buy right now?" they begin asking, "What can this become years from now?" That shift changes everything, because wealth is not only a financial result. It is also the product of repeated disciplined behavior over long periods of time. The people who become financially stable are usually not the people making the most dramatic decisions. They are often the people making the most consistent decisions repeatedly for decades. Most people never stay consistent long enough to experience this transformation. They chase trends, jump between strategies, and constantly search for faster results. Every few months, a new opportunity appears promising rapid wealth, and because people are impatient, they abandon stable long-term investing for emotionally exciting speculation. Sometimes this creates temporary success, but temporary success often strengthens dangerous behavior instead of building lasting financial security. Real wealth rarely feels exciting while it is being built. It feels repetitive, quiet, structured, sometimes even boring. But boring consistency is exactly what allows compounding to become powerful. Small investments, repeated consistently for 20 years, often outperform dramatic emotional decisions made repeatedly during the same period. The difference is not luck. The difference is behavior sustained long enough for time to amplify it. At some point, successful investing stops being about numbers and starts becoming about identity. The people who eventually build wealth are usually the people who stop seeing investing as an occasional action and begin seeing it as part of who they are. Investing becomes automatic instead of emotional. It becomes structured instead of reactive. And this identity shift quietly separates long-term builders from everyone else around them. Most people never experience this change because they remain emotionally connected to money. Every dollar feels temporary. Every increase in income immediately creates new desires. Every moment of stress creates emotional spending because their financial behavior remains reactive. Investing never develops the consistency necessary to create serious long-term growth. This is why some individuals earn enormous incomes and still remain financially unstable. Their income increases, but their emotional patterns remain unchanged. They continue spending impulsively, reacting emotionally, and prioritizing appearance over structure. From the outside, they may appear successful, but internally, financial pressure continues controlling their decisions because no stable system exists beneath the surface. Real investors behave differently. They understand that investing is less about excitement and more about repetition. They understand that protecting capital matters as much as growing it. And most importantly, they understand that temporary market conditions do not define long-term outcomes, unless emotional reactions interrupt the process completely. This emotional control becomes one of the greatest financial advantages a person can develop. Markets rise, markets fall, fear spreads, excitement spreads. Headlines constantly create pressure to react immediately. Most people spend years trapped in this emotional cycle, buying when optimism is highest and selling when fear becomes strongest. That emotional reactions usually place people in the exact opposite position, necessary for long-term wealth creation. The people who quietly build wealth learn to detach emotionally from temporary movements. They stop treating every fluctuation like a life-changing event. Instead, they focus on maintaining consistency regardless of short-term uncertainty. This allows time and compounding to continue working uninterrupted, and uninterrupted compounding becomes extraordinarily powerful over decades. Most people also fail because they constantly compare themselves to others. Comparison creates impatience. Someone sees another person making fast profits, and suddenly, their own steady strategy feels too slow. Doubt begins growing. They abandon their process and begin chasing whatever appears more exciting in the moment. But constant comparison destroys long-term focus, because there will always be someone appearing to move faster temporarily. Real investing requires the ability to ignore noise and remain committed to long-term direction. This becomes increasingly difficult in modern culture because attention is constantly manipulated by dramatic financial stories. Overnight success receives attention. Slow disciplined investing rarely does. Yet slow disciplined investing is usually what builds lasting financial freedom in reality. Another reason most people never build real wealth is that they underestimate how long wealth actually takes to develop. Many people secretly expect investing to dramatically transform their lives within a few years. When that transformation does not happen quickly, frustration appears. They begin questioning the process itself instead of questioning their expectations. The wealth creation through investing often requires decades of patience before results become truly substantial. This long timeline discourages people emotionally because human beings naturally struggle to value distant rewards. A future benefit feels abstract compared to present comfort. This is why so many individuals continue prioritizing immediate consumption over future growth. Even when they intellectually understand the importance of investing, emotion repeatedly overpowers logic when no structure exists to protect long-term decisions. The people who succeed financially solve this problem by removing as much emotion from investing as possible. Contributions become automatic. Systems replace decision fatigue. Investing happens consistently whether motivation exists or not. This is important because motivation is unstable. Some days people feel disciplined, focused, and optimistic. Other days they feel discouraged, fearful, or distracted. Systems continue working regardless of emotional state, and systems create consistency that emotions never can. Over time, this consistency begins changing every aspect of financial life. Stress decreases because financial direction becomes clearer. Confidence increases because progress becomes measurable. Opportunities expand because accumulated capital creates flexibility. Eventually, investing stops feeling like sacrifice and starts feeling like security. This transformation usually happens so gradually that people barely notice while it is occurring. One year feels insignificant, then another year passes, then another. Slowly, investments become larger, stability becomes stronger, financial fear loses some of its control, and eventually the same person who once struggled to save small amounts begins experiencing a completely different financial reality. Built through years of quiet consistency, most people never reach this point because they quit during the invisible stage. They stop when progress still feels too slow to matter. They return to emotional spending because emotional spending creates immediate satisfaction, while investing delays gratification. But delayed gratification is exactly what allows future freedom to exist. The truth is that investing itself is not what builds wealth. Behavior builds wealth. Investing is simply the tool. Without discipline, patience, emotional control, and long-term consistency, the tool never reaches its full potential. But when those qualities exist together over long periods of time, investing quietly becomes one of the most powerful forces for financial transformation a person can experience. This is why most people never build real wealth through investing. Not because wealth is impossible, not because opportunities are unavailable, but because emotional behavior constantly interrupts the process. Before time can fully reward consistency, the market itself is not usually the greatest obstacle. Human behavior is. And this is also why the small group of people who remain patient eventually separate themselves financially from everyone else. They continue investing when progress feels invisible. They continue during fear. They continue during uncertainty. They continue during boredom. And because they continue while others repeatedly restart, compounding eventually rewards them in ways that appear extraordinary from the outside. In reality, their success was never sudden. It was simply the result of ordinary disciplined actions repeated consistently for an extraordinary amount of time.